Hi guys and welcome back to another episode of Coding for Kids. In this episode we're going to continue on with our game and we're going to start to build the map. So let's get into it. Okay, so if you remember from our last lesson, we created all our objects that we're going to be using in our game. So we're going to create the map. Okay, now our map is just going to be a grid and all it's going to show is different letters to tell us if it's a war or a treasure or where the player is. So we need to tell our box to give us back a certain character depending on what type of box it is. So let's go to our box class that we created, and then we're going to create our function. All right, and the way we create a function is we do public, and then we say, what do we want to get back from this function? Do we want to get anything back from this function? And in this case, we want to get back a string, which is going to be a character or like a letter that tells us what type of box it is. Okay, so we're going to do string, and then we give our function a name, and let's just call it get string. And then we use open close parentheses. And if we wanted to pass in a parameter, we would put it in here, but in this case, we don't need to pass in any parameters. So we do an open, close curly brackets. Okay, and it's giving us an error right now because it's saying, hey, you told me you're going to return a string, but you're not returning anything to us. So we have to fix that. So we're just going to come in here and we're going to go if the box type equals box type, let's do empty first. We're going to say return an empty string with just a space in it. Okay. Now it's still giving us an error because it's saying, hey, you're only returning something if this is true, but if it isn't true, you don't return anything. So we're going to create a whole bunch of these for every different box type. All right, and then we're going to do one for war. I'm going to do one for enemy. Let's do another one for player. Am I forgetting one? Let's do treasure. Let's do recharge station. And if it's none of those, then that means it's the end of the game. Okay? So we'll just do return. Let's just use Z to tell us it's the end of the game. All right. And then if it's a recharge station, we'll make this an R. If it's a treasure, we'll make this a T. If it's a player, P. If it's the enemy, if it's a W. So now when we look at our map, if we see a W, that's going to let us know it's a war. If we see an E, that means it's an enemy. And if we see a P, that means it's us, where we currently are on the map. If we see a T, it's a treasure. And if we see an R, it's a recharge station. Okay? And let's just double check. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's just make sure we didn't miss any. So let's just go here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. We got them all. All right. So now we have a character that represents what is actually in that location on the map. Let's go and start creating our map. So first off, let's create a class called game, and our map is going to sit in this class. Let's go game.cs. Okay, let's make it public. Now let's create our map. All right, so our map is going to be public, and it's going to be a box double array. All right, now the difference between an array and a double array is just adding a little comma. So if that's a single array, oh, we have to do it right. Why does it keep doing it? So that's a single array, and if we put a comma in here, that's a double array. Okay, and let's just quickly pull up why we do that. All right, so let's pull up a grid. Okay. All right. Here's one. All right. So if we just had a single array, which was 4 in length, right? We would just have one spot, which is a box, 2 spots, 3 spots, and 4 spots. But if we say we want a double array, which is 4 by 4, that means that we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'd have a second row, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, a third row, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fourth row, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can see, we're going to create a big one of these, but depending on the different positions you're in, that's how we're going to draw our map using the double array. So let's go back into it. And let's call this underscore map. And then we're going to do a public int, and this is just going to be underscore size. This is going to be the size of the map. Might not need this, but I'll put it in there for now. And then we're going to create a constructor for our game class. And in that, it's going to take a int, which is a size. And then after that, it's going to take in a player, which is going to be us, the player. And we're going to set the map up. So we're going to do the size. And then let's just create our map. We do equal new box array. And then we'll put size, comma, size. And I'll go into a little detail. Tells us what this is. Okay, so here we created our variable, which is a map, which is a double array. And then here we're saying our new array is a new box array, and it's going to be this size by this size. So if we pass in an 8, that means we're going to have 8 boxes across and 8 boxes down. So we're going to have a grid that's 8 by 8. If we pass in 10, it's going to be 10 by 10. If it's 2, it's 2 by 2, which is a very small map. Okay. All right, now we've created this array and we've said it's going to be a box array. We need to set every box in the array. And just to make a clean map at the start before we start adding in all our different objects of like enemies and treasures and whatever, we're going to put in every spot in the map an empty box. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use something called a for loop. And all a for loop does is it just iterates a number over and over again until it meets a certain condition, and then it says we don't need to loop anymore. So you could say, here, I'll show you how it does. So we could go for, all right, and then all this is saying is from I, which starts at 0, just I++ just means add 1 to I every time we go through the loop. You could write it like this. You could also do I equals I plus 1. That's basically the same thing, but we'll just do plus plus for now. And then it just says keep going until this condition is no longer true. So if we put false in here, it would never loop. But let's just put it back to that. Okay. So if we start here, we could start at 3, and it'll go from 3 until I is less than 5. So it's going to go through I. If I go here and say console dot write line, and then put I in there, it would show us 3, 4, and then it would, that's all it would show. If I put this as 0, it would show us 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it would, when it would go to 5, it'd say, hey, 5 is not less than 5. So it won't iterate. It'll just break out and go after the for loop down here. So we're going to go to size. So we're going to start at 0 and then go until the size is no longer thing. This is like just an easy way of iterating through an array. And because it's a double array, we not only have to iterate through the first one, we also have to iterate through each one underneath that. So we're going to do another for loop inside that to say, all right, go through the first array, 0, 1, 2, 3, up to whatever size. Then we're going to say, okay, then go to the next loop, the next array, and go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to whatever number. Then go to the next one, the next one, the next one. So let's do that. And if you notice, the first one we're using I, and the second for loop we're using J. Then we say map IJ. So the first time this runs, it's going to say position 0, which is the first array. Position 0, so it's going to go 0, 0. What do you want that to be? And we're going to say we want that to be equal new box. And in there, we're going to say that box type is going to be an empty box. So it's going to run once, and then it's going to go to the second position, third position, say this is 2, right? It's going to go, okay, 0, 0, 0, 1, then it's going to go 1, 0, then it's going to go 1, 1, and it's going to do all 4 positions on the map. And then after that, we're going to say, hey, we want to set the player in the position that we set in the player object. So we go down here and we go map, and then we type in player, and we do dot position X, so that's the player position that they start at. I'm going to do player dot position Y equals player. Okay, and that's it. So now we've set the player object on the map where we told the player would start, which is what we set in the constructor. And if you want to have a quick look at that, we'll just go to that quickly, the player class. So you just come over here and click player. And if you remember, we set the player's starting position as 8 and 1, and there's a reason for that. Okay, so that's it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.